Hello everyone and welcome to Jess and the Guest. Today's episode's gonna be a good one. Today, Chris Kattan joins me. You know him from Saturday Night Live, A Night at the Roxbury, where he stars with Will Ferrell, The Groundlings, Corky Romano. There's a great new book out where he talks about all of his different Hollywood interactions and his career. It was fascinating. I learned so much about him. He dated Zooey Deschanel. Did everyone know that? I didn't know that. He was one of the most surprising and interesting guests I've had on. We talk about everything from being at a dinner party with Tom Cruise and Tom wouldn't stop staring at him, or from all of his famous characters, like one of my favorite sketches on SNL, the More Cowbell sketch, where he physically pushes Will Ferrell. He's one of the most fascinating, funniest, smartest guys I know, and this was one of the best episodes. Plus, he does a Lorne Michaels impression and talks about having a food fight with Destiny's Child and Beyonce. This is before Jay-Z, but come on, that's pretty insane, right? All right, I hope you like it. Yeah.
I'm up in Washington State. I live in LA, but I'm up here for my girlfriend's funeral. Or my girlfriend's, my girlfriend's grandfather's funeral. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I was like, oh my God.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, it's a little different.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And
yes, of course.
I am gonna try not geek out too much because I'm do improv and I'm part of the Groundlings. So I'm like, I have so many specific nerdy improv questions that I promise I won't. But I loved your book so much. I can't even tell you how many times I read it. You're what I wish I could do. Like how did you do this?
Right. Oh, thank you.
Your characters are so precise and smart and physical. Right. I'm like, you commit to a level that I've never seen anyone. I don't know. I'm so impressed. I don't know how you do it.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
So your book, I loved so much. Again, it almost felt like a love letter to your father in like a really cool way. How much did he influence like your writing for the book?
Yeah, without him, I wouldn't have been as interested in comedy as I was, you know?
Yeah.
I used to watch old movies with him all the time, you know, like old, everything from Chaplin to Buster Keaton, and then, you know, a lot of stuff in the 30s like Marx Brothers, and then in the 40s and Bob Hope and Bing Crosby doing the road pictures, and also a lot of old time radio. I listened to a lot of old time radio with them, like Jack Benny and you know, Fred Allen and Tipper McGee and Molly and Amos and Andy and all that, you know, great stuff from the 40s. So a combination of old time radio and old comedy films, you know, I used to watch with him. He had really good taste, you know.
Yeah.
In movies and film, and you know, he was a big fan of comedy. So, but he also was one of the founders of the Groundlings too, back in '75, I guess. So he and people like him and Gary Austin, who was the director, and people like John Paragon and Paul Rubens, he created Pee Wee Herman, and Chris Peterson created Elvira, and then Phil Hartman, and you know, goes on and on, but he was there for the first few years. So I used to watch him perform as a kid. You know, I come watch him perform and see everybody improvise and come up with these characters out of nothing, you know. The creation of trying to make something out of nothing is it's a hard thing to understand. And the only way you can really understand it is by doing it. You know, I think my mom was very much about she was very adamant about me being, because I was an only child. I did have a brother later, but I was an only child. And when I grew up, my parents separated when I was 3, and my mom was very much, and I grew up in a place called Mount Baldy. Yeah. Which is not the best place for a child, because you're supposed to be around other children. Yeah. Usually, they say psychologically, it's like, that you're supposed to be around other kids growing up, you know, so you know later, not just manners, but like how to speak, really, how to speak like a normal person, how to act like a normal person. And if you're not, you can learn bad habits and pick up on the wrong things, you know, and then think everything you see on television is the way that people should be, you know, or on radio, or what people's version of how to be is how to be, you know. Anyway, my point is that one of the things that she really was adamant about me learning was how to make something out of nothing. And and when I watched my dad perform in the beginning of the Groundlings, that's what they did. They created characters out of nothing.
Yeah.
To become and create something that Paul Rubens did, to create Pee Wee Herman out of nothing, is pretty amazing. I mean, how does that happen? It does happen. There is somehow something between zero and then making something like Mike Myers creating Austin Powers. How did that happen? I mean, what came from zero to that?
Yeah.
And I got to see a lot of that process in the Groundlings, and my dad. My dad. Yeah.
I mean, he was amazing too. You look just like him too. And I was looking at photos. Like, oh God, yeah, it's so cool.
Oh, thank you.
When you're creating a character, do you start with physicality? Do you start with emotion? Do you start, or like, how do you do it?
It's a combination of both physicality or emotion. I think I was did a lot of physical characters, as you probably know, like the Roxbury guys or Mr. Peepers. So those were physical characters. I think Mr. Peepers was physical, but if you really think about it, it really was coming from a place of angst and frustration.
Yeah.
And so I think there was some anger in it a little bit, like it's almost like almost like an angry animal in a weird way. But I didn't know that it was. I was thinking of it physically. It came from it really, the idea came from when you watched any of those late night talk shows like Fallon. But back then, Johnny Carson would have Jack Hanna come on and bring an animal on.
Oh yeah.
And the animal would go crazy and it would urinate on the desk, or in this case, dry hump Johnny Carson's face, and a monkey would. And I was like, that would be kind of funny to play something physical and start humping everything. But so that was the visual thing I wanted to capture, but it came from an emotional place in order to be that character.
Yeah.
So it really is a combination of both. I think the physical thing is the results that you want to capture, and the emotion is how you get there, I think.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't put down your book. It was truly like one of the best books I've read. How did you pick which stories? Because you've lived like the most insane, really cool life. Like, I'm like, what am I doing with my, like, how did you pick which stories would go in the book? And like the flow of the book I thought was great. Like, how did you decide?
Well, that was me, and this other guy Travis helped me write that. I think going back and forth, and from one topic and then involving another part of my life in that time was an interesting way to go about it, as opposed to just chronologically, from birth or whatever, being a child up to now. It was nice to go back and forth.
Yeah.
But just doing, I didn't know how much to talk about SNL or the Groundlings or just my personal life and growing up, because I think it was better to go back and forth a little bit, so you see that it's everything was kind of see what the influences are and what made it impact my life.
Yeah. My friends who have written a book, they either say it was very therapeutic or they needed a lot of therapy after. How was it like writing out?
Yeah, it was very therapeutic. It definitely is. I mean, you get a lot off your chest, and you find out you find out a lot. It's very cathartic. It's very personal.
Yeah.
It really is. And afterwards you're like, should I have said that? I don't know.
Yeah.
You have no idea, but you said it. It's too late now.
I loved your acknowledgement section too. It's the only acknowledgement section in a book I've read. Like, I was like, oh, this is great. So I saw you said something about karaoke with Jimmy Fallon. Please tell me this happened, because
what was it about karaoke?
Yeah, with Jimmy, something like thank you, like for the karaoke nights or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think we had some karaoke nights for sure.
I just picture that being like the most fun. Like both of you together are so great. So I'm just like, karaoke with it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jimmy's an amazing guy. His energy level and his enthusiasm is what really drives him. He's so appreciative of the arts and performers and creators and all that stuff. So he was it's so genuine. That's why he's so successful, I think, is because it really is genuine.
Yeah.
And he just loved to live. Life's short and you love to live. And that's a real impact for people, because not everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
You know, people
No,
get really downsided and, you know, get downtrodden or whatever you would say. But Jimmy has a wonderful way of life, way to look at it.
I was so impressed too with SNL. You came in mid-season, and I might be getting this wrong, but you had a first sketch of the night, your first show. Is that?
Yeah, that was supposedly that's never happened before. At least that's what I was told. And I was a feature player, so I came on. I came on the first season that Will and Sherry and David Peckner and Molly was there already, and Norm Macdonald and Spade were there. And I came in there. I came in 6 shows towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, it is an odd time to join the cast. Usually you either start at the beginning of the season or you start mid-season. But this was literally 6 shows before the end of the season. So that was strange for the rest of the cast. And it's strange for me because it was a weird time to start. And but the pressure was on for me to prove myself. I think they literally gave me that short amount of time for me to prove myself. So the first sketch of that season, or that I ever showed, was that character called Sewell Forrester, which was the gibberish guy.
Yeah.
And it was, it was a substitute teacher, and I did it as a groundling. So when I submitted the sketch for read through, I already knew it by heart. I already knew the lines because I already had performed it in the groundling. So when I did it at the read through table, nobody laughed except Sherry a little bit because so nobody laughed at all. And I don't know if they weren't laughing because they didn't think it was funny or what, but I think they were just like, who's this new guy? Why should we give him a break? You know, it doesn't make sense to them. Mm-hmm. Which makes this, I completely understand that. It doesn't make sense. But Lorne was very adamant about trying it out. So they picked the sketch to be in the show. They didn't say where it was going to be yet. Mm-hmm. Usually the strongest sketch out of the whole read through or the dress rehearsal, which is the show that's before the live version of the live show that you watch on television. You try out the sketches. The first sketch of the night is usually the strongest. Yeah. Supposedly, that's what it is. Cold opening is the most political or something that is really addressing what's going on, but it's already written as cold opening. And the strongest sketch would be the first sketch. You know, that would be like where Wayne's World was at, when Wayne's World at that time was happening, or Sprockets or Hans and Franz, you know, whatever, Church Lady, you know, that was the spot, or Samurai, or, you know, that's the first tonight would be the biggest sketch of, and the most, or Mary Catherine, you know, the reoccurring character. So mine was like, I think for dress rehearsal, it was somewhere towards the end. I think it was after Weekend Update, which is really kind of the middle of the show. And it went great, you know, and I was like, I don't think no one really knew who, I mean, there's no way nobody knew, nobody knew who I was, obviously, because it was 6 shows before the end of the season. So it did really well. And, you know, I was very comfortable doing it because I already knew it, the line by heart. So, and the read-through tape, the rewrites for that week didn't change anything. So that went in my favor. They added one joke, and that joke did okay, and they ended up cutting it before a live show. Anyway, so when we did it, a dress rehearsal went great. So they ended up putting it as the first sketch of the night before we went live. And it was like, oh my God, like that's a huge deal for me. And the rest of the cast was like, it just went really well. So Lorne put it as the first sketch of the whole night, you know, so it still could have failed or done really well, and it went great. And so that was I was very, very, lucky that happened, and grateful, because that really helped me out for my, for the rest of my career on Saturday Night Live. You know, had it not gone well, it wouldn't work for me. You know, it'd be much harder for me to get sketches in, probably. Yeah. But it was the first sketch of the night. It was a John Goodman show. I forgot who the musical guest was, but so it went really well. So I was excited.
All right, Jess and the guest listeners, as someone who is currently quarantining with their family, I've never needed therapy more in my life. feel like everyone could use that. And luckily there's a place like betterhelp.com. Again, that's betterhelp.com. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Jess and the Guest listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Jess and the Guest. This will help you with everything. It puts you in touch with a licensed counselor within 48 hours, which, dear God, we all need that, truly. So again, that's betterhelp.com/Jess and the Guest, and you'll get 10% off your first month. I rewatched it today and I was like, there's no way I would never have guessed it was your first time on the show. Like, it was amazing. Like, you were so comfortable, right. So natural. Like, I think I would have been freaking out. So I'm like,
yeah, I know. I don't know why. Well, first of all, it was 6 shows before the end of the season. And I auditioned with Will and Sherry and Jennifer Coolidge also auditioned at the same time. And I did not get it. And I was really bummed out. And so I was like, God, I didn't get it. I auditioned with my friends. And then 6 shows before the end of the season, Will Ferrell called and said, hey, Lorne asked me to ask you if you wanted to join the cast. And I was like, what? I was like, why? First of all, I was like, why are you asking me? And I know why, because we were like, best friends at the time, and we had all this material that we did together.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. So so that's when I asked. So when he asked me, I was like, oh my God, that's great. It wasn't quite as exciting as it would have been if I got it before, because I was so bummed out and kind of heartbroken that I didn't get it with my friends.
Yeah.
At that time. So when I got in the show, I was kind of like, I think there was no nervousness, because I was kind of like not as excited as I could have been.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, I don't know I don't know why. That's why. I mean, that's really why I was so comfortable doing the sketch.
Yeah.
That I already did it before at the Groundlings, and they didn't let me change it to any of the dialogue, and also B, that I already it was just kind of like, also there was not enough time like the others. When you start a show in the beginning of the season, you're there for like 6 weeks before the season, so there's a lot of time to get in your head, to be nervous about it and all that stuff. So I had no time. I got there Sunday and started Monday, and then my sketch was in for the read through Wednesday, and so there's no time to be in my head about stuff, no time to be nervous or excited, really. I just, so it went in my favor for that,
Yeah.
I think you can't be married to it. You can't be married to everything that you're doing. You can't invest all your, everything on your performance, because you just never know.
Yeah.
So it's not that you give your performance 100%. But in your head, you don't put pressure on it. You don't make it seem like, if I don't do this right, everything will go terrible. Like this has to be amazing. You can't be that hard on yourself about it.
Yeah.
You just can't. Life's too short, and you just got to be easy on yourself when you criticize yourself. Because some people will perform, and you're so hard on yourself about, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done this. You just do it. You just do it, really. You do your homework, obviously, when you learn your lines and your blocking and all that stuff, but you just can't be married to it. You give it 100%, but not be married to it. It's okay if it doesn't work out. Somehow you have to know that it's okay.
Were there any guests that were really surprising? I think Horatio Sands said, like, Kelly Ripa, he didn't expect to be as good as she was. Like, was there anyone you were like, wow, they are actually very funny?
That I work with or that I saw?
Either one. Yeah. I know, either one.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't wow, there's so many good ones. Well, Jim Carrey was amazing the first time he did the show. Tom Hanks was always great.
Yeah.
I do remember a show that I was watching that was, I'll say a show that I watched recently.
Yeah.
Was Harry Styles.
Yeah.
He was so good. I mean, oh my God, he was so relaxed, and he was just having fun. I mean, that's what's so great that's the thing. I know it's such a cliche for a performer to be told, hey, just have fun with it.
Yeah.
You always hear that. Just have a good time. Just have fun with it. But that's really, if you could really understand that direction, you really got it made. Because if you look at someone like Martin Short, he's silly. I mean, he's just genuinely having a good time on talk shows, doing character. He's just silly.
Yeah.
And he doesn't look like he's taking himself seriously at all.
Yeah.
He's just like in the moment being silly and playful. He's really having a good time,
Yeah.
And when I saw, say, Harry Styles, he looked like he was just having a good time. He didn't look like he was trying to have a good time. He didn't look like he was trying to be funny or trying anything. He did his homework doing these characters, and but he didn't look like he was putting a lot of pressure on himself.
Yeah.
Just and it came across as he's a natural.
Oh.
He was just funny,
Yeah.
So I was really impressed with him, honestly. That was one of the most impressive people that you would never think that,
Yeah. That was one of my favorite shows to watch too. I was like,
it's just so like, who knew? You'd never think that Harry Styles was that funny as a performer.
Calculating how much money I've spent on improv, and I was like, damn it, why is he so good?
I know. Why is Harry Styles so good at this?
Yeah.
He's from a boy band and now he's solo. What's this? This doesn't make any sense.
I know. Like, what am I doing?
I know.
So Mango was one of my favorite characters. I used to watch, when I'm sad, I watch Mango. What was it like playing with J-Lo? It was like 8 minutes long, I thought. I think I just saw
sketch?
Yeah, like
it was long. I know. When I didn't realize that I know. It was very nice of Lorne to let those sketches be so long. Because they were like, and I always write like 3 or 4 different sets or different scenes in the sketch as opposed to just having it one place, which is, I don't think I realized that, wait a second, these people have to build these sets.
Yeah. They look great though.
Yeah, but it looked fun, I guess it was kind of benefic, but she was great to play with too. J-Lo was fantastic.
Yeah, you guys were really physical. You were wrestling, and same with Charlize Theron too. Like,
that was another person that was, I think, Charlize Theron.
Theron. Yeah, I know. I have no idea.
She was great. She was fantastic. She was so good. I loved working with her, and she was so fearless. Oh my God! Like, we did a Mr. Peeper sketch, and she was crazy fearless.
Yeah.
She was it was a therapy. It was a sketch where Molly Shannon was the therapist, and Charlize Theron was a patient, and I guess the problem was about something she couldn't find the sexual part of her in herself or get excited anymore. So she brought in me as Mr. Peepers.
Yeah.
And she put a blindfold on, and we fed each other food, bananas and milk. I poured milk in her mouth and went all over the place. And then she like ripped her blindfold off and started dry humping me, and she pulled me by my wig, but she got so into it, she pulled my wig off. She was out of control. It was fantastic. It was like, and it's funny because we did that in dress rehearsal, and when we got notes afterwards, Lorne Michaels was like, could we not go so far? Let's tame it down a little bit, because she was like so involved in the character. I was like, oh my God, she's gonna kill me.
Yeah.
And then we went live, and she went even further. She really got into it even more. She was like, as if she said, like, whatever, Lorne, I'm just gonna do it. And, so she was a great performer. I always find that some of the actors, the really good actors, are better as performers on SNL than comedians are sometimes. That it's really odd, but it's true a lot of the time. It's just all about being fearless. I think that's really that. And not everybody's genuinely funny too. You find out if someone's really funny or not.
Yeah.
And that's part of being relaxed and confident and not really giving not being invested in the character 100%,
Yeah. Do you think you've always been fearless because like the way you were raised, like with Mount Baldy and like being an only child? Because all of your characters to me are so fearless and funny, and that's what I struggle with. So I'm like, how do you do it?
Right.
But
how was I fearless? You mean?
Yeah, like were you always that way, or like is that something you had to learn? Because to me it sounds like it's something you were always like. But
yeah, I think I was always fearless. I wasn't very concerned about being careful and coming from a place of making sure everything is I don't know, it's it's just like, being on SNL, I mean, you're that's a place where you should be fearless, I think, and if you can be fearless, might as well be fearless here. And you have the characters to be fearless with. Those are your excuses.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like it's you fearless as a person when you talk to someone normally or work with someone or you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, it's having characters to be fearless with is the best excuse to be fearless.
Yeah.
So that's why my fearlessness got to work. And like Will was always fearless on the show, physically as well, you know.
Yeah.
Whenever he got a chance to wear underwear or, you know, that was part of his fearlessness. I think that's the best way to, you know, do a character or just perform in general.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts is in the cowbell sketch when you push him. It's just so funny, his reaction. Like, I don't know.
Well, he asked me to be he asked me to push him as hard as possible. So I did. I think you're surprised. Like, wow, what the heck? I had no idea you could push me so hard being such a small person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't break in that sketch. How did you not break in that sketch? Because
I almost did. I was like, I might, you know, a little bit of my mouth was kind of like, I was breaking just slightly. I mean, Jimmy full on broke because he breaks a lot of sketches, but yeah.
You've done so many movies. I feel like you've worked with like every studio too. The more I was like, oh, this is Disney, this is Paramount, did you prepare differently going from like sketch and improv than like how you prepare for characters in movies or films? Or is it the same?
It's kind of the same, I think, preparation, but SNL is much more just using the atmosphere so much, you know. I think it's I guess it have to do with the camera and how it picks up your energy. I think because you only have so much room when you're doing a film or television because you have to perform for the camera, really. Mm-hmm. But when you're on SNL, the camera has to capture you, so you could move wherever you want usually in a sketch like SNL. But if you're on, you know, doing a film or television, you perform for the camera. So it's the camera you think about for those things. And again, sketch comedy, the camera follows. You think about yourself. Yeah. The camera follows you in sketch. I think. Yeah. That's usually how it is. I mean, they do direct you for the camera on SNL, but you try to find that happy medium of like, well, I feel like my character would do this, and the camera go like, okay, we'll capture it over there. I think that's the difference. Yeah.
Do people ask you to do the Night of the Roxbury head bob like every time they see you?
Not every time, but yeah, a lot. People do like me. They do want me to do that for sure.
Yeah, because it's such an iconic thing, but I feel like I would be really annoyed if someone just asked me to do the same thing. Like, what are you, stop?
Right. It can be, but you know, if it's a person that deserves it, I guess it's okay.
Yeah. What was it like too? I loved in Undercover Brother, your dance, that whole dance thing. What was that like? Was that a hard process to do a whole like dance sequence on?
No, that was fun. They let me do that. I think they said I danced in the script a little bit to it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't think, you know what? I don't think they said that in the script. I think I asked for that.
Really, it was perfect. Like
I remember asking if I could do that, and but before I did the role, they offered it to me, and it was an Imagine film. So Brian Grazer and Ryan Howard were producers. And when I talked to Brian Grazer, I said, "Can I do some rewrites of the character, you know, for myself? Is that okay?" He says, "Yeah, whatever you want to do, just make it your own." So that allowed me to be, you know, do the best I can, or the ideas that I could think of, do it. And so I said, "Is it okay to do like a dance thing here? Is there a place in this movie that I could do a little dance?" And so that was they let me choose Mary J. Blige as the music, and so they let me dance. It was pretty quick, but I got a dance in there, so
it was great. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're like me, you have no time for breakfast. Trust me, I get it. And finding something healthy can sometimes be really difficult. So use Magic Spoon. It's this great cereal. It is low carb, high protein, and Jess and the Guest listeners get 10% off. Again, that's 10% off. Use code Jess and the Guest at www.magicspoon.com. Do you have a favorite character you've ever played? You played such iconic characters. Is there one that's like, or the easiest one to write or perform? Or
Well, Goth Talk was probably one of the easier things to write. But I wrote that with another writer by the name of Dennis McNichols.
Oh, cool.
And he's the head writer for Weekend Update right now, actually.
Oh, nice.
And he wanted to write it because he was Gothic himself back in the day.
Yeah.
And he was Goth down in Florida.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God.
Yeah. So the
Sunshine State.
Right. He made that the show, the Goth Talk show, take place down in Florida as well, which is such a, like you said, unlikely place for Gothic people to be.
Yeah.
And it was so that was great to have him know about those people, you know. But that was a fun sketch to write. It was like, if you look at Wayne's World, you're usually just it's just that one sketch.
Yeah.
And the also it's been built before. Mm-hmm. So they just pull it out whenever you want to write another one. So it's easy for everyone to make that happen. But I was just I loved performing with Molly, and Will was in that all the time. Then we had other people. But it was an easy sketch to write because it was already a vehicle, you know. It was the same character each time you saw it. It was me being Azrael Abyss, and which was a character that looked like Robert Smith from The Cure.
Yeah.
And then Molly was Cersei Nightshade. And I love doing the voice, you know, just like this timid, like, I'm Azrael Abyss. I'm the Prince of Sorrow. And it was just such a...
Oh, good.
I always loved doing that character so much. It was such an easy, fun character to do, you know. That was one of my favorites, doing Azrael Abyss.
Yeah, I loved the one at the gym. You guys were at the gym. It's like two overly affectionate people with or made everything dirty with Sherry O'Terry. I forget the name of them, but they were. Oh, that was so fun too to watch. And
yeah, that was great. They're called the Zimmermans.
Oh yes.
And, but we called the sex couple basically. Yeah. It was like it was a couple that had been married for 7 years, and that we play these sex games or dirty talk, I guess, to get each other revved up. We would say stuff like, you know, you want me, what do you want? You want me to, huh? You want me to, huh? And then she goes, yeah, I want you to, huh? You want me to, so it was a chemistry thing back and forth. And they'd be like, yeah, I want you to find the right words. Right. And so but that was like, it was those characters worked because it was just the timing and the playfulness between Sherry O'Terry and I. And she was in the Groundlings, and I was in the Groundlings, and Will was in the Groundlings. So we all had, and not Molly wasn't there, but we all had that kind of training to play with each other. Yeah. In the sense of like performers and characters having timing between each other. Yeah. And if you had that, I think that was the hardest thing to do for comedians to work that well together. Yeah. But if you could, oh my God, it was the best thing to do. I mean, it happened with Spade and Farley, you know. It happened with Aykroyd and Belushi doing the Blues Brothers. You know, when you had that chemistry, that's the best thing you could do. If you find in yourself a time that you perform with another performer, and there's something you're doing that is so easy to do and makes other people laugh and go, God, you guys were great together. That's the best thing. If you could build upon that, you really have something. You can really find some gold in that. Yeah. Yeah. And if you did that well on SNL the first time, Lorne was like, let's bring it back, because that's really the hardest thing to do, is for two people to do something really well together. I think it's something you learn early on, which we did in the Groundlings. So we learned it early somewhere else. And then when we got on SNL for, you know, on a not a primetime show, but a network television show, then we were able to, you know, bring that magic back. It's like, we already have it. We already know how to work that well with each other, you know, so we don't have to do, I'm propping you up right there. Okay. So, but if you have that, then, you know, you have a lot of it. That's great to have. And Lorne's smart, obviously. He knows what's so great in people, you know, and that's usually because you already knew it before when you got there. Yeah. You know,
I feel like most SNL people have like a impression of Lorne. Do you have an impression of him? You don't have to do it now, but just do.
Well, I'm not very good at mine. You know, like, no, I just there's this story where he and his son Henry were looking at a star in the sky alone, and his son Henry goes, Dad, look, a shooting star. And Lorne goes, no, I know. Because that was one of the things he always says is, no, I know. So that was like the tagline. And of course, Mike Myers does a great impression of him, as in Austin Powers, Dr. Evil. And was that Dr. Evil?
Yeah,
That was
I
his
think so.
name, right?
Yeah.
But everyone seemed to have done a great impression of Lorne. Everyone has their own version of Lorne. And it's funny, I think Lorne likes it. You would think he doesn't like it, but I never seen him like laugh at someone do it unless it was on the show. I mean, for him to accept Dr. Evil as an impression of him is he's definitely got a sense of humor about it. No question about it.
Yeah.
And that's amazing to have a sense of humor about yourself.
Yeah.
Some people have no sense of humor about when you make fun of them.
Yeah. Wait, so in the book, you casually mentioned that you were on a plane with Destiny's Child. What was Beyonce? What was
Yes.
I can't even imagine.
We're on a plane from New York to Seattle. I was going to Seattle because my mom and stepdad and brother live on a place called Bainbridge Island in the Puget Sound. So we're flying en route, and they recognized me, and I recognized them, of course. And I think it was a long flight, and I think we got bored, and they were on one side of the plane, and I was on the other side, and we were just throwing, crackers at each other. And it's surreal to think about it now that we're, joking around with Beyonce.
Yeah.
And Destiny's Child, because she's such an iconic woman now.
Yeah.
She's such a huge, she's like Elvis today, basically.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that was pretty interesting. That was fun. That was before Jay-Z, so it was safe to throw food at Beyonce.
I feel like you're the only person who can say you did that too. Like
probably, I think so. Not too many people would say they threw pretzels at each other with Beyonce. Beyonce and I threw pretzels at each other on a flight one time. She obviously has a sense of humor. I mean, if you really, it's just everyone is a human being. Everyone does the same thing as everyone else. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't suggest that if you see Beyonce, throw pretzels at her. But I think we had that rapport at the time. I guess it was okay to throw pretzels at Beyonce. I wouldn't suggest it again. If in concert, if you go to see Beyonce perform, don't throw pretzels at her. That's probably not a good idea.
I couldn't get over your Tom Cruise story too. Did he really not blink?
No, I never saw him blink. He just but he was so relaxed. It wasn't like that. He was just like, he was just relaxed and
could never pull it off. Yeah. So cool.
No.
So now you're doing stand-up. Was it a tough transition going from improv to stand-up?
Yeah, it was. Because I didn't do stand-up in the beginning. It wasn't something I wanted to do at first, but I got into it and I really love it because you get to interact with the people like a live audience, like you could with Saturday Night Live a little bit. You get to reach out to them. But I realized that using the improv technique and stuff, I loved using that while I was doing performing for people doing stand-up.
Yeah.
It was really pretty cool to do that because it's a great tool to have. I enjoy, the best part of doing stand-up for me is interacting with people in the audience.
Yeah.
That I love doing the most. I would love interacting with them and improvising and talking with them, getting to know them a little bit. And that was the best thing. Plus, when you improvise, you get to learn how to write, or it's easier to write when you can improvise, especially when you think of dialogue for characters and people.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, it's a great asset to have.
Yeah.
But sometimes a lot of this stand-up shows I do, I end up improvising more than I do, than my actual set, which is interesting. That's but I love doing it more often than my natural set, obviously. And the crowd loves it more. If you talk to someone and make it personable and stuff, I think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
They love that. And
how are you staying funny during this time? Because I feel like you're doing a great job and I'm struggling. Give me advice, Chris.
How am I staying funny? I'm just trying not to take it so seriously, I think,
Yeah.
There's nothing to do about it, it really isn't anything. You just, there's a lot of time. There's a time to create stuff, but it's hard to think of ideas too,
Yeah.
But I try to stay funny because, there's nothing else. get downtrodden by all the stuff going on. It's just, I mean, it's easy to do that. It's easy to get depressed about it and frustrated with, there's so much going on out there, politically and just how we're being affected personally and our families. And there's so much going on that you have to have a sense of humor about it.
Yeah.
That's really the best way to survive. The sense of humor is the best survival.
Yeah.
I think, and everyone needs it. Everyone needs someone funny to make them laugh and feel like it's okay. I remember, when I would do stand up on the weekends, my agent, his name's Adam Genovesian at ICM, and he would say, remember, these people spend their they spend this money on their heart. They work all week and they spend their hard-earned money to go out on the weekends to laugh, because their lives are not full of laughs. That's why they're coming to see you, to laugh. To have a good time. And I forget that sometimes because I'm not, I don't spend my money to go out and laugh. I'm usually laughing a lot in just my general life. You got to have a sense of humor somehow. It's hard, but somehow you have to do it. You have to somehow celebrate life instead of feel like it's a miserable thing. It's hard to do, but somehow you got to laugh about it. I don't know how. But you try to get rid of all the things that don't help you be that aren't helping you stay funny or stay in a place of having a sense of humor. It's hard. It could be very, very hard.
And last question, I loved how much Cameron Diaz felt like almost took you under her wing with fame. And everything. What is like one thing that you learned most from her?
That in the beginning, I think I remember her. She's such a sweetheart. I think Drew Barrymore is the same way. They have this genuine kindness and place of being very kind and sweet, that they don't realize that some people could take advantage of that when they're big, famous people, that big of a famous person. I remember Cameron was walking on the street and somebody wanted a picture and an autograph. And then all of a sudden, a swarm of people came around here. This is like right after Something About Mary, when she was huge. And she felt like she was obligated to sign everybody's thing. Or take a picture with everyone. And she's not obligated to do that. But she chose to do it. And it was such a good thing of her to do, but she didn't have to do it. And I always thought that it's a good thing to keep that part of you going, to be that nice person that you are. Because later some people don't stay that way. And then they start dismissing the people, like, oh, you don't need this, or you don't deserve that, or leave me alone, or that kind of stuff. And that's when it gets kind of sad. That you weren't that person anymore. And if you can hold on to that part of you, then I think you got a lot going. I think that's a great way to keep your head up, and remain that good of a person, because it's that part of you that knows how to be good, that really makes you survive everything, and to remain to be that person. So everyone looks at you like you are a good person, that you deserve, that you really are. I mean, ultimately, everyone's a good person, I think. I like to believe everyone is a good person. Although I've had in my time a lot of people take advantage of me because I thought that. In relationships and stuff. But I like to believe that everyone is a good person. Everyone is somehow. There's a goodness in everyone. Even the most terrible person, I think there's a goodness in that person somewhere. I like to believe,
that's how I feel too. So I'm like, yes, like, you're so wise. Exactly. Will you write another book? I feel like I'm sure it's really hard, but I would love it.
I think so. I'm gonna this year, because we weren't really allowed to do much, but write some stuff. And I came up with some ideas, and they're gonna, hopefully happen this year. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot going on. So, but eventually, I'd like to write another book, I think. Yeah, definitely. That was a biography, so something about, I don't know, probably the stuff about being funny, or I don't know. I'll think about it. But I love to do it. I love writing. It's very cathartic for me to do that. If Rob Lowe could write what he wrote, like 4 or 5 books or something, I don't know what he was writing about, but one book about West Wing, or I don't know what it was.
So
about
true.
that videotape of him and 3 girls. Who knows what it was written about?
Yeah, if he can do it, we got this. We can
exactly. If Rob Lowe could talk about his time on Parks and Rec, I guess I could write a book.
So true. I can't thank you enough for doing this. You're one of the most talented people I've ever seen. I'm so indebted to you. Thank you for everything. You're incredible. I hope to meet you in person one day.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, next time you come to the show, tell me you're there so I can meet you.
Yeah,
that would be great.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you so much for everything.
You're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great day. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Jess and the Guest. Chris Kattan. I mean, come on. Can you get any better than that? Hanging out with Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore. He's the best. I hope you learned a lot from this episode. Mostly that you shouldn't throw food at Beyonce. Who knew? All right. Thank you so much. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, watch on YouTube. You know the drill.